They aren't as big as they were in their 90s heyday, but these lovable losers are still together, and with more Jay and Silent Bob projects on the way, here's a look into the origins and history of the degenerate duo. Director Kevin Smith famously self-financed Clerks, which had a paltry $27,000 budget. That's not a lot for a movie, but it is a lot for one guy to raise and then spend on a movie that could have flopped hard. Smith cobbled the money together by selling off his extensive collection of comic books, pilfering from his college fund, and then maxing out a bunch of credit cards.
Screw you!
Hey, you're not allowed to rent here anymore!
Yeah!
As he tells it in Stephen Lowenstein's 2002 interview collection, My First Movie, the rest came from an insurance settlement for a destroyed car that he and Jay himself, actor Jason Mewes, shared. Mewes warned Smith that the area where the car was parked one day was going to flood, and that they should move the car. Smith said he didn't want to, and the rest is cinematic history.
You know, there's a million fine-looking women in the world, dude, but they don't all bring you lasagna at work. Most of them just cheat on you.
Smith made Clerks himself, so he was free to cast anybody he wanted, like Mewes, his best friend, as Jay. But Studio Gramercy Pictures made the quasi-sequel Mallrats, and studio executives were adamantly opposed to letting Mewes play Jay again. Instead, they wanted the more experienced and bankable Seth Green to step into the role. Smith convinced studio executives that Mewes was right for the role, which, fun fact, was inspired by Mewes himself, but the studio still kept Green on call for the duration of the shoot as an understudy. To add insult to injury, the studio also refused to pay for Mewes to travel to the set in Minnesota or for his hotel room during the shoot. Studio executives even showed up to the first day of filming, fully prepared to fire Mewes if they didn't think he was good enough. Smith made Mewes aware of the situation, prompting him to give as good a performance as he could, and the suits finally approved.
Oh, son of Jarrell! Kneel before Sod! Snitchy boochies!
After Gramercy's reluctance to cast Mewes, he didn't want to take any chances. He showed up to one of Smith's next movies, the epic religious comedy Dogma, prepared. Extremely prepared. Not only did he memorize all of his own lines before shooting began, but he'd also learned everybody else's. Yep, he'd memorized the entire script. This was because Smith met with Mewes before rehearsals and told him that he needed to do his best work, because not only was Dogma the biggest production they'd ever embarked on, but they had real actors in the movie this time. Specifically, the legendary Alan Rickman had been cast in the movie as the angel Metatron. Mewes showed up and gave his performance everything he had because he didn't want to, quote, piss off that Rickman dude. Mewes first became addicted to heroin around 1995, and it was Smith who urged Mewes into rehab. But after a series of relapses during Dogma, and after becoming addicted to OxyContin, Mewes was eventually arrested for heroin possession and sentenced to drug counseling and community service.
Whenever we weren't like literally shooting and they'd be like, hey, we got 20 minutes while we set up these lights, I would rush to my trailer and I'd be doing drugs in the trailer.
In an attempt to get him clean once and for all, Smith invited Mewes to live with him and his family in California after the filming of Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. Still struggling with drugs, Mewes stole Smith's bank card, withdrew cash, and used it to buy heroin. Undeterred, Smith continued to check Mewes into a series of rehab clinics, though none of his stays lasted long. Mewes says he hit rock bottom on Christmas Day 2003 when he woke up on a couch that was on fire, which he had started after getting high and falling asleep near a candle. Mewes returned to New Jersey and attended court-mandated drug rehab. As of 2017, he was 7 years sober. Jay and Silent Bob show up just about everywhere, even in a Canadian teen drama. In 2004, Smith and Mewes and their fictional counterparts showed up in 3 episodes of Degrassi, The Next Generation. In their arc, Smith and Mewes played themselves, heading up north to Degrassi High School to film a fictional movie called Jay and Silent Bob Go Canadian, eh? While in Canada, they also got into the educational spirit of Degrassi and worked hard to get their diplomas thanks to the help of a principal portrayed by one-time collaborator Alanis Morissette. She just so happened to play God in Smith's Dogma. See? Everything's connected.
You understand a word this hoser's saying, Silent Bob? How the hell did she get to be principal when she don't even speak good English like us Americans?
Probably the most famous Degrassi graduate is actor and musician Drake. In 2018, he paid homage to his past with a video for I'm Upset taking place at a Degrassi High reunion. Even Jay and Silent Bob make a brief cameo. Jay and Silent Bob, or rather Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, are not immune to Hollywood's current obsession with remakes, reboots, and revivals. They are, however, not lazy enough to just rehash the old hits without doing something new, or at least poke fun at the whole endeavor. In August 2017, Smith tweeted that he and Muse were about to shoot another entry in the View Askewniverse of Smith's films, a direct follow-up flick to 2001's Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. At a Q&A, Smith explained, "If you remember Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, it was a movie in which Jay and Silent Bob found out Hollywood was making a movie about them, so they went cross-country to Hollywood to stop that from happening. In Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, Jay and Silent Bob find out that Hollywood is making a reboot of that old movie that they had made about them, and they have to go cross the country to Hollywood to stop it all over again. It's a movie that makes fun of sequels and remakes and reboots while being all three at the same time." Smith hopes to have the film ready for release sometime in 2019.